Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to another live stream. Today, we are talking about so many things, but as always, on special occasions, it's not just me. Every now and then, you get just me, and I feel sorry for you. But today, you are joined by my partner in crime, the PUC, J to the double D. Mr. J Bartlett is
Oh,
here as
how
well.
oh, wow. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah.
Hi, Rob. Good morning,
Hello,
everybody.
sir. It's been a minute. It's been a minute, as the kids say.
Yeah, we haven't been live together since we talked about the new He-Man show. Yeah, it
Was that the last time that we were live together?
was the last time. Yep.
I'll take your word for it. I have an icebreaker for you to start this off in old fashion, if you'd like to hear it.
I do. Let's hear it.
All right. Before we get to the icebreaker, let's just tell everybody that today we're talking about Nintendo 64 Quest. We're going to be talking about Planet Cool stuff. We're going to show some cool stuff at the end, and we're going to talk about probably lots of memories in between. And of course, get to your questions on this live stream. But the icebreaker for this week, and it's a bit of a two-parter, okay? And it's not going to be easy because you know how these things go. If you could have a meal with anyone, living or dead, who would it be? But, but you have to cook the meal, and what would you make for them?
If I could have a meal with anybody alive or dead, who would it be?
Yeah, knowing that you have to cook for them as well, and what would you
Oh,
make them?
uh, Dave Grohl, and I would cook.
Really, over Mark Hamill, over Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah, same with thought. And I would do my old specialty, man. When I was a meat eater, I would do blue steaks. Remember, I used to eat blue steak,
Uh-huh.
like not even 5 seconds, just like sear, eat it up, and then just get like a case of Bud Light, man, and just the steaks, no sides, nothing, man, because I know he's a big barbecue guy. So that's easy, man. A little bit of
Okay,
sprinkling,
but let me
whatever.
ask you something. You're making blue steaks and Bud Light. This doesn't sound like you're much of a participant in this meal. So you're basically just serving him?
Oh no, I'm gonna be watching him cook. See, I'll be like, Dave, come on over and I'll cook steaks, and then he'll see how terrible I am at it. He'd be like, no man, I'll bring my barbecue and we'll do it right. And then all of a sudden it turns into a block party because everyone knows Dave's coming over. So then the block is
So
all
you would invite everybody
covered
over to
up.
your one time to have one-on-one time with Dave. You're just going to invite everybody over to it?
Dude, it's appropriate that way. I think so. And then it'll turn into a jam. What else is gonna turn into to the wee hours of the morning? That's what a great idea.
Okay, so I'm going to put a twist on this because you got away with that way too easy. Let's say you've got to do this somewhere secluded that isn't in your yard. It's a neutral location. You don't know anybody there. It's just one-on-one, you and him. I want to know, how do you drag out the experience to hanging out after dinner? Where he's like, okay, that was a good meal. Well, I guess I'll see ya.
So
What do you do to get him to stay and hang out if he's
if it
got
was
like,
still Dave, what would I do?
yeah, sure. How would you
Well,
get him to
okay, I
stay?
would say, "Hey, I got a great idea. Do you wanna come over to my jam space and you can teach me every song you've ever wrote?" I mean, to me,
Oh,
that sounds like fun. He'd be like, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." Dude, it's a no-brainer, obviously. What a dumb question. Come on.
you know what? You beat me again, Mr. Bartlett. There's no wrong answers with these questions. How have you been recently, my friend?
Ah, good.
How did
Stressed?
that question throw you out, throw you a curveball, but the other one didn't?
It's been a stressful year. I'll put it to you that way for many different
Pretty good.
reasons.
I don't
You
know.
know,
Solid.
but it's been good. It's been a good year. I've grown a lot. It's been very stressful. Had great experiences shooting Nintendo 64 Quest, of course, with you and the crew, and I've been loving streaming. Yeah, I'm finally doing what I've meant to do all this time, so it's good. I go back to Nintendo Quest, which I saw you put a little bit of that in there, by the way. And the line that I say in that is perfect, by the way. Anyway, sorry, we're talking about something
We'll
else.
we'll
But
talk about that because nobody knows what you're talking about. Let's give a shout out to people in the chat. You've got a lot of people from your channel coming over. We got Jeff Morris saying hi. We got JT976. You might know these guys a little bit more personal than I. Thanks for coming. Silver Knight Kyle is here. Ruskins is here. Christoph is here. Appreciate you guys. coming in and hanging out with us
What's going
already on the
on,
stream.
mates? We got Mo, JT, Kyle, Christoph is from Poland. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Rise of the Phoenix Warrior. That's what we'll call him. Because
Sure,
phoenixes are very prominent in Polish culture. My partner's Phoenix. She tells me about this all the time.
sure. Whatever you
Yeah,
need.
whatever
Whatever
I
you.
need. So the good news, folks, if you're just joining us, you may know me from other things where I've crashed Jay's stream. Sometimes I just show up at his house and I just pop in, whether he realizes it or not. Or you may have been on the interwebs long enough to know that we used to have our own Dolly Talk show and just kind of gaming stuff. Remember GamerCast all those years ago when Nintendo Quest came out? Jay and I have been around a bit.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and then that got picked up into an actual TV show, so that kind of stopped. But I do miss just the streaming days for sure. We had a lot of fun. Larry Kenny, that was a highlight. That was definitely a highlight, that episode.
Yeah, I shared
Fun.
some highlights of that, some shorts recently from that whole experience, and people went nuts for that stuff. So they're all out there, so people can check out the Jane Rob Toy Show, which is mainly focused on action figures and dollies, but will veer into some other pop culture stuff now and then. But the good news is Jay and I are endeavoring to come back with a weekly presence in support of a couple initiatives, mainly some Nintendo 64 Quest stuff that we're going to get to soon. Is there anything that you wanted to throw in off the cuff before we jump to our first topic?
No, feels good to be back. Good to do a show with you again, and let's get to it.
All right, so let's talk Nintendo 64 Quest. The biggest question that everybody wants to know, and I'm sure you've got it a million times. Why are you guys doing the sequel to Nintendo Quest, but focusing on the 64 as opposed to the Super Nintendo or some other thing?
Yeah, I've got.
Why the 64? Can we put that to bed finally and officially, even though we'll have to do it again and again?
Well, it's no disrespect against the Super Nintendo. I also don't know where we kind of laid out the floor plans of us doing them in chronological order. We never said that. But Nintendo 64 Quest, because hands down, even above the NES, I think for you and I, that is a system that we can go back to time and time again, and it reminds us of our friends, that special time in our life when we were becoming adults, drinking a lot of beer, hanging out with friends, playing a lot of great music, all in this tight group that we had. So it goes once again, way beyond the actual games themselves, but the camaraderie that came with it.
Yeah, and we have been thinking about this sequel for a long time, and I think that there's something really unique about that system. It's not just like a clear home run for Nintendo like the NES was. Like, it's really hard to say that the NES was not the greatest system out there when it was, Nintendo's flagship. And the N64 comes out at a really interesting time in gaming history, and it's a complicated console. And that's
Yeah.
just an interesting discussion point and for something for us to explore. And that led to an interesting library for you to collect as well. So I want to know specifically, Jay, what do you love about that system now? Not then, not when it came out, because you gave us some of those answers. But now, when you think of the 64, why do you still appreciate it now that isn't tied to nostalgia?
Well, I still played quite a few games from that system, and I do love the NES, of course. I'll never take anything away. This is what's so great about gaming, is that every console has its own memories and flavors. For 64, I take like the first thing that comes to my mind is finally entering Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time, and it's just like go to the castle, and it's like, well, where there's go explore, and it's different from taking that three-quarter top-down view of Link to the Past, where you can kind of see everything, to Zelda, where everything's a through line. It's drawn for you, so you can't see all the way where you need to go. You really feel like you're part of that living, breathing world. That feeling still exists, and the graphics are just that much sharper than PlayStation or Saturn. So early polygons are rough. 64 just gets past that, so it's still pretty good to look at. And then, of course, that first time you and I played Mario 64 together, Japanese Mario 64.
I'll never forget trying to play Pilot Wings because we got Mario 64 and we played that for a couple hours. It's like, okay, let's try Pilot Wings. It lasted like all of 5 minutes because we were just inundated with text at the beginning. I seem to recall, and I was like, we don't really know what to do, and there was a lot of reading involved to figure that out for the tutorial. So it was quickly, let's go back to Mario 64.
It was Japanese. Like I bought an actual Japanese console because it was out in Japan 6 months before it came here. So I imported it. There was a store, I can't remember the name of it now, but Jeff was the owner, and he would get in imports, and he's like, "You want one? Here you go, X number of dollars." And I was crazy enough to do it. But I remember
Well,
that whole summer we got to play 64. No one
yeah.
else cared, but you and I cared, so that's all that mattered.
Tated Toy Guy saying, "What's up, guys?" Silver Knight, Neil Temple saying, "More loud." Silver Knight Kyle is saying, "GameCube quest." Hey, you never know. We got to figure out one quest before we can get to another. It took us 10 years, man, to do this follow up. I don't think we'll make it another 10 years, but you
Well,
never know. That
it
would,
was a good story on like we always got. Why don't you talk about that? Let's get you to talk about something. So when we always wanted to keep working together, we just couldn't figure out what we wanted to do. So when Nintendo Quest was done, Ra went and did his stuff. We were always trying to find something together, and then we had an opportunity to do gaming or maybe explore toys, which is our other passion, and take it from there.
and the question was, well, what do we do with gaming? Can we do Super Nintendo Quest or Genesis Quest or whatever, become the Sega Hunter? It was really kind of difficult to figure out what to do. And so I was like, well, let's do toys because it was so hard to follow up in the shadow of like all the positive feedback we were getting with Nintendo Quest. So you don't want to like tarnish that by doing a curveball right away. So we went and did
Yeah.
Action Figure Adventure, which had a different scheme to it in terms of, okay, Jay's going to do this and it's going to be for charity because that wasn't part of any of our stuff yet. It wasn't him collecting for himself. It's which is kind of boring to see. You don't get to see the bigger impact of a mission. And so it took us forever. It's like, well, how do we do a gaming quest again without this ending up on your shelf? Because nobody's going to want to buy a whole set of something because they're going to have some. And
Right.
you can't sell Quarterback Club for $50, to get a profit on all this stuff to make it all even. So that's where we came up with the raffle. And we're going to talk about our N64Quest.com raffle soon. I want to talk about something though specific because we're done the 14-day quest. So a Nintendo Quest 64, Nintendo 64 Quest, whatever you want to call it. We're done principal photography. Jay had 14 days to get all 296 games with no online purchases. All right. So not as much time as Nintendo Quest, but not as many games either. Not going to tell you what happened in those 14 days. Not going to say what he got, what he didn't get. Did he find it? Did he not find it? You have to wait for the series to find that out, or you're going to have to be really, really clever sleuths. But I don't think you're going to be able to figure it out ever until you watch the show. What made this journey exciting for you, knowing that we were going back out there and there was going to be that charity component and you weren't going to be collecting for yourself, but we were back into games instead of toys?
That we were doing it for Alzheimer's. I was doing it for my mom. Um, yeah, just because I mean, losing, and you've had your share of loss as well. Losing your mom is rough. Like I mean, that's an understatement. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but not just losing them, but watching them fade and into essentially nothingness. It's the worst thing, and I've seen many diseases over my years, unfortunately, with family members. This is by far the worst. Knowing that she maybe wouldn't understand what you and I do, right? As that generation doesn't really understand that you can make this a thing, but still appreciating it and supporting it.
Mm.
Knowing that I was going out there And again, like action figure adventure, it's not for me to be on my shelf. Well, you and I get to enjoy everything, get to enjoy the games and the experiences, but ultimately we're passing on that love we have for that system, and it's going to go to something much bigger than just our measly collections.
Right. It was very daunting for me to have that charity component because it was so personal for us, and in a way that was different than action figure adventure. My son was part of action figure adventure after we started. He was diagnosed with a disability, and therefore would be the recipient of the children's health program that we were
Yep.
crusading for, which was very personal. But at the same time, it felt like we're going to find any great toys, and somebody's going to love these big ticket, rare, noteworthy things. And we're going to be able to get some cash for them with the deals that you were making and your knowledge, and where to push and what not to push. With this, because you have so many common games in the N64 library, and it's really kind of like the top 25 for sure, maybe the top 40 games are going to fetch the bigger bucks. There feels like a lot more pressure to do justice to Alzheimer's and dementia organizations, specifically Alzheimer's Society of Canada, the Southwest partners in our region, and support them. So, going out from a production standpoint, like this has to be the best thing that we do. We can't scale it back. We can't cut corners. It has to have the highest level of polish possible because we're trying to do something great for these people. And like I said to
Yeah.
them, we want to do this because we're celebrating the past. And what better way to celebrate the past than try to preserve it by combating Alzheimer's and dementia? So,
I I I will say it was just as scary as going out the first time, knowing the daunting task, and it's different. So Kyle asked what was the stadium events equivalent. There, it's
there's
different,
nothing like
right?
stadium events in any library, really. There are big games,
Yeah,
but nothing is quite like stadium events.
the 64 is interesting because it has 10 to 15 games that were exclusive to Blockbuster, which is something very, very interesting. Again, very much of the time, very much of the mid 90s. Blockbuster was so big that they were able to go to Nintendo and other third party developers and say, we want this just to be in our store as a rental. And they were so big, they got exactly what they wanted. It was a smart move for publishers, it was a smart move for Nintendo. So, knowing I have to go out there and find Blockbuster exclusive games was scary, and the amount of them. There's not just one or two, there's a lot of them. And these were just up for rentals. Ultimately, sometimes they got dumped. A lot of them got lost and destroyed. So trying to find those is different than stadium events. So I can't really give you an equal comparison, Kyle. I can't.
Chris wants to know what was the best part about doing N64 Quest. I don't know if that's a comparison to Nintendo Quest or just overall independently.
For me, it was being with the crew again and getting to just go to all these great game stores, all these great locations. There's nothing like that. I love doing the road trip stuff. I love it. It's really what I live for. So it's not something we can obviously do all the time. So when an opportunity comes up, jumping in that van again is fun. And just the stories, and you go batty for driving so long, and you just laugh the entire way, and it's stressful and fun and exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, the sense of discovery is always so much fun in these quests that we do. Like you don't know who you're going to meet, what you're going to find, and what obstacles are going to crop up. I mean, even just driving to Toronto, traffic is going to delay and like impact the quest, how quickly we can get to a store. How are
yeah,
we going to be able to get to another store because traffic is now building up in rush hour? These little intangible things that you can't write that start becoming part of the story is always just really, fun. And, I like to see you sweat, and I like to see you like up against a wall, and how are you going to figure out what your next move is? It's great storytelling, right? Like we all love
yeah,
movies where like we want the hero to win, but we love it when they overcome a challenge, especially in a creative way that we could have never thought of. And that's what this is kind of like in spades, really.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the nature of what the show is. I mean, I'm hunting for artifacts from the mid 90s to the 2000, 2001, right? So if anybody collects retro games still, you know the prices of retro games for pretty much every console are astronomical,
Yeah.
way higher than they were 10 years ago. I can tell you that, which makes sense. But there's something more to that as well. They're expensive because 10 years have gone by, but they're also just greatly inflated because, like we've talked about on my channel, a lot of this stuff now is just erased. A lot of these publishers' older games aren't going on digital stores. They're just lost for all of time.
What was interesting to me, and I'm like doing the Seinfeld, like, oh, it's okay. I don't know. I'm up here already. Was seeing NES carts while we
Yeah.
were filming N64 Quest and having this weird like deja vu feeling, like, and also being a little nauseous looking at them with the camera
Yeah.
crew around. It's like I can't look at these right now. Like,
Yeah,
but
it
then
was
seeing the
weird.
price on some of those games, and we're not talking just tenfold, cost inflation. It's
You
a
know
lot
what?
higher
Like
across the
the
board.
first time we did this with Nintendo Quest, I understood what was happening. The second time, for some reason, the weight of everything didn't really hit me until the end, until all of the shooting was done, and I just kind of sat there. I'm like, wow. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because streaming has made me more comfortable doing action figure adventure, Jay and Rob Toy Show. I don't want to say I wasn't nervous, but it just didn't hit me the same way.
Well, the
But
journey was broken up differently, right? So there was basically three phases that we did. Phase one, we went 5 days. Phase two was 4 days, and then phase three was another 5 days going out there. Whereas Nintendo Quest was essentially 2 weeks, a week off while you're at home, where we did some stuff locally again, and then like kind of like
yeah,
another 2 weeks. That was the 30 days, more or less, or like 10 days, 7 days, and then another 10 days. So like that was kind of it. It was all in one go. So it just kept building and ratcheting up, but it didn't feel right to do that this time. Like we could have orchestrated that, but because there's a charity component, it doesn't make sense to see you, like, to make you suffer and make a mistake that's going to cost like the Alzheimer's Society money that they could use because you're, delirious from driving all the day, and you miss a game, and now you're paying 3 times as much, which means you have to get more money in return, and so they get less money as a result. Like that didn't make sense to me. So we broke it up into chunks so that it could be just focused, intense. And then if you had to pivot between the phases, which you did, then you could do that and kind of, point your compass differently.
the mistakes were still made, and we'll just leave it at that.
They certainly were. But
Mistakes
that's
were made.
fun. That's certainly fun. I shared with you just before we went live a first pass of the first 12 minutes of episode one, which
Yeah.
took about a month to do on my behalf. How does it feel seeing that, and what your thoughts were, and compared to seeing like Nintendo Quest stuff for the first time?
Well, this 12 minutes I got to see of the first episode Robert showed me this morning. It's really good. There's a lot of great faces in it. There's a great backstory of the 64. There's an introduction to your main character. I'm not playing. There's a lot of really great stuff. How is it different? I don't feel weird about seeing myself anymore. Like when I first did that, I don't want to say I'd never been on camera before, but when you and I screwed around with the camera, most times we couldn't keep a straight face, right? Except for like the perfect dark doc that we did, but most of the time we are laughing. So,
Doc is a pretty generous,
dude,
broad
it's
term you're
the
using.
first pickup video in the history of YouTube. That's a fact.
I don't know about that.
It's 100% fact. Jokes aside, though, yeah, I felt more comfortable looking at everything as a whole instead of looking at me like, oh, did I make a stupid face or did I say something stupid? Like, I don't care about that stuff anymore. Where I was much more uh, critical of that in the beginning, but you're good at making me look good, so I'm fine.
Well, you're more camera savvy. That's always nice. When
Yeah.
I say you got to open up, you know what I mean, or you're more aware of how cameras are being positioned, and it's easier to have shorthand as well.
Yeah, that this crease wasn't there. I tell you that. That was from Nintendo Quest. This crease right here.
Well, that's the love of stress. That's the love of stress.
Yeah.
Speaking of stress, we've got an exciting, you turn stress into excitement is what I'm told. We have an exciting event coming up, and that's at the end of June, June 26th. We're gonna be doing a series of live streams in the evening starting at 8 p.m. And I say a series because I don't think we're gonna be able to get it done in one day. It might be consecutive days. Tuesday, June 26th, probably through the 28th. And that's for our video game raffle that's connected to N64 Quest. So even at the bottom of this, you can see the ticker that goes right at the bottom. Check out n64quest.com or nintendo64quest.com. We've got them both. And you can own a piece of the journey. So we're raffling off not only the games that Jay has found, but donations we've gotten along the way, plus a bunch of other signed stuff from Jay and I. So, for example, we have a bunch of these postcards that we're going to sign, maybe put a nice message on the back for you. We're only selling 1,000 tickets. They're 25 bucks American each. So we're trying to raise $25,000. And for that $25, you're guaranteed to get something, whether it's one of those signed cards, a donated piece of merch, or one of the games that Jay found. And hey, we're happy to sign one of the games that Jay found if that's what you want. But 25 bucks could get you something like Conker's Bad for a Day, or it could be, I don't know, Mario 64. These games are worth more than $25.
Yeah, and let's show off one game store donated this. So this obviously has all its hookups, but this is one thing that you could get in the raffle, like a complete original black N64 with all the controllers and hookups. Like this was just given to us as one of the donations. So you never really know what you're going to find. But all I can say is I don't know, man. To get a piece of what we did, I think it's pretty cool. More importantly, it goes to help Alzheimer's, and it specifically goes to the Southwestern Ontario division in St. Thomas, close to where we live. That's where Mom went for her. I don't even know what you call it. That's where like
Support.
before
She
she
was
went for his support. Yeah,
she was under their umbrella of support and care, which is great. Matt
yeah.
Miller's here. He's a big supporter. He's saying every entry is a winner, which is what we're trying to let people know. It's not necessarily a random draw where you might lose. You are guaranteed to win something from this unique one-time only experience. And so we'll be pulling until all the tickets, get a game, a piece of merch, or a signed item from us on the live stream. So you'll know if you watch us what's going on, what you're going to get, which is really exciting.
I think it's exciting. I'm a big movie prop guy. So I wish more projects would do stuff like this. You know what I mean? Just to get a piece of the production, I think is really exciting. So I think it's worth it. And $25, I think, is dirt cheap, and you're getting a piece of the journey, and you're also you're helping my mom and preserving her memory, and yeah, the Alzheimer's Society and people who suffer from it currently, you're helping all that. So it's win-win. 100%.
TJC saying, whatever I win, I would like you both to sign it as being a part of N64 Quest is what it's about to me. You got it. Absolutely. Matt Miller saying, and all in support of a very worthy cause. Absolutely. I think back to how cool would it be to have some of those games from Nintendo Quest and be able to share that journey with the community. And that's the other thing about N64. That system was really about the group of people we were with. And
Oh
when we
yeah.
made Nintendo Quest, we found that there was this whole community out there that we didn't know about that were
Yeah.
very much like us into the same thing. So we wanted to bring that sense of community forward. And by raffling all this stuff off, of course, yes, Jay's fronting the cash for it. We'll recoup it, and the rest goes to Alzheimer. But like it connects the community even more. We need to do more building because it's so easy to divide now more than ever. This is a great way to bring us together and connect and do some great things with the things that we love.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a message that's kind of built from the start almost of what we've done, from transitioning to action figure adventure, then back to this. When we switched over to, it just didn't feel right, especially an action figure adventure, for me to be getting these things for myself. We spend enough on our hobbies, right? There had to be more, and then my time at GameStop, working with Children's Health Foundation. It all made sense just for that to be the evolution. So I'm glad that we're finally here with what I think is the most important system of our group, and for my mom and for people in your family, Rob. So yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. So let's talk about the timeline of events. So you can go to n64quest.com right now today, secure a raffle ticket, and you're guaranteed to get something. Again, there's only 1,000 tickets. You can buy multiple tickets. You're on your own. You're gonna be part of it. You're gonna be part of the N64 club, right? The NES club throwback there. What's after that? Well, we'll probably do a Kickstarter campaign so that you can actually secure the series for yourself on DVD and Blu-ray, maybe some credit options, maybe you can share some of your N64 memories. And with that would be, of course, a trailer at some point. Maybe we'll even try to have the trailer for when we do the live stream of the raffle so people can check it out for the first time and
yeah,
see what the quest is like and how it looks and some of
that'd
the
be
different
super
things that
cool.
people. Well, you get to see a lot of people. Even you remarked before we streamed of the people that we interviewed. You were surprised at some of the people that made it.
Lots of people for this project, so it's great. You guys are going to be really pleasantly surprised with all the personalities in this show.
Yeah, and nothing's a secret, of course, because everybody knows that we filmed with them. So if you like the Game Chasers, we got Billy from the Game Chasers in there. 8-Bit Eric's in there. Of course, we've got the guys from Rare in there. So Kevin Bayless, David Wise, Dr. David Doak is in there. We've got a few other people on that side. We got John Riggs, got John Hancock, we got Chris Tang. Lots of people. Our good friend Gerald Glassford is in there. We got Doug from Retro City Games. He sat down for an interview, which was fun. Lots of cool people sharing their thoughts, which is nice. That's what you need. You need the faces. Got Tyler Esposito from My Retro Life, who's got a really cool story. His dad was such a hardcore gamer back in the day, and he filmed everything that they did together. So he's got tons of stuff from back in the day that was filmed on his
So
channel.
cool.
And it's great to have everybody together. So I'll try to aim for a trailer to come up with the raffle, which would be great. Then a Kickstarter campaign, and then the series drops. I think early November in Canada. And if you're a Kickstarter backer, of course, you'll get access to it right around then. And then it should launch globally after that, probably sometime first quarter 2025, which is exciting.
I can't wait. I can't wait to actually see it. You know me, I'm not a big fan of watching stuff that
That
I've been.
surprises me to hear you say that you actually want to see this
I
because you
do want to
don't.
see it, but this one just feels different, and I can't explain it. Just what I saw this morning is just I was like, okay, I want to see more of this. I want to see more of this, and it's
Well,
not.
that's a good sign. He's not just saying that, folks.
I know I don't. I don't want to see me. I know what I did. I mean, I want to see everyone
I
else
would.
talk about 64. It's exciting.
Yeah, you like the talking head segments because you weren't part of that filming stuff. You were obviously on
Well,
your journey,
I
but
was there. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I don't want to sit there and watch me. I want to watch others get excited and talk about 64 and talk about how they would tackle the quest and their memories with the system and the games, etc., etc.
what did so in the first 12 minutes of episode 1, again, which is what I showed Jay this morning, it's establishing what the quest is, what the rules are, how many days, how many carts, how his journey is broken up, why is he doing this, and the back story of the N64, how it came to be, and people's initial thoughts when they got to play it and stuff. Um what surprised you about those talking heads, I guess? Was there anything or any of that footage that caught you off guard that you didn't expect to see that you saw?
I could talk about anybody that's in it.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you better know so because once I say it, I was surprised to see Todd Curtis,
Okay.
uh, and it really brought me back. For anyone who's seen our first film,
Oh, you can't
Todd
say Todd?
Todd was responsible for a lot in it, and he is still such a great guy and one of the biggest game collectors I know. So to see him again and kind of see that room again 10 years later was real. I wasn't expecting that, even though I knew you guys went there, but I just wasn't expecting to see that. Of course, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to see any footage today, so that was a pleasant surprise. But seeing Todd was great.
And what comments did they have about how you should handle your journey? What stuck out? Because you said, you know, you like hearing how people would play the quest at home. There's a few comments in there about what you should do in order to find success.
I don't remember. I just remember that the basic message of good luck,
Yeah,
because sure, it's half the library, give or take, but
compared to Nintendo NES.
it's
Yeah,
also half the time. And
yeah.
let me tell you something, that half the time way more outweighs. Did you know what I mean? I don't know, I would almost rather go for 700 again and have a month instead of less than
You
half the
say
time.
that now, but once you get to day 21, and it's like, oh god, we only got 9 days left.
Yeah, I really can't say much more than that, but yeah,
And I don't,
that's going to
and I
change.
don't, and I don't think you'd want to do those 700 games now.
No, but my point is, I would almost rather trade the game quantity for the time, because 14 days is not like, it's literally nothing. It's no time at all. And when we started to shoot, I remember a few days in, I was just like, "Oh my god, how many days have we done already?" Just yeah, it goes by like that.
So Tater
Yeah,
saying,
you
I
can't
can't
look
wait to
at Tater, so you can't yell at me.
play the Yell at J game. So, like action figure adventure Nintendo Quest, Tater is Nathan. He's a part of our production, and he's there, and he knows what happens. But when he watches these episodes, he's yelling at his TV screen to do this or do that, or because he's playing the at home game. You know, if you're playing the at home game, what are you going to do instead? So it's always fun. Neil wants to know what the rarest N64 game is. I think that's an interesting question because I don't know that there really
There
is a unified one. There's expensive games, but I like rarity is different than expense, unless you want to know what the most expensive one is.
I really can't comment on a lot of that. Um, Check out any of the Blockbuster exclusive. Yeah, that's all I'll say. I don't want to say anymore. I really don't. It's not as black and white as the NES, where stadium events is very rare for obvious reasons. The 64, it's a little more gray.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to say it's more daunting. It certainly felt more daunting given the fact that the majority of these were rentals. That's a scary thing to think about.
Yeah.
That's scary. Like we were, we still collect games, Rob, but we were big into 64 back then. I didn't have any of the rentals. Did you? I never had any
No.
Blockbuster. Like we're talking
No.
Indiana Jones, we're talking Transformers. I didn't have any of those.
I I barely recall seeing them at Blockbuster, to be honest,
Yeah.
because we were all just playing the staples at our houses. We were playing Mario Kart, GoldenEye, WrestleMania 2000, or NWO versus WCW Revenge. Like
Mhm.
there was really like 15 games during those years, probably in total, that we played ad nauseum. Mario Party, like we were just really happy with those games, and it was really only a few outliers that we would go on our own to play some of the other games, but it always came back to those core 10 or so.
And for some reason, Star Fox. Me and Ferg going through Star Fox like over and over. We beat it like once a week. Oh, I love you too, buddy. I know you don't yell. You're nice. We get yelled at. We don't do the
Yeah.
yelling. We get yelled at. But hey, we're not the boss. That's the way it goes.
So Jay, I'm going to give you the stage for about a minute or so because you did something really cool on the weekend with a bunch of our friends for Free Comic Book Day / May the 4th. And I want you to tell everybody what that is. And that's going to allow us to segue into Planet Cool Stuff after, because I just think what you did is really cool. So
Did you
tell
watch?
everybody what you
Did you
did.
watch any of it?
No, I didn't, because I wanted to wait for it's done so I could watch it after uninterrupted.
Okay.
Like I've got lots of dogs barking and kids and stuff like that. So when I need to like focus on something, I got to pick my battles.
Sure. Sure.
The weekend is not a time for me to do that. So
Yes. We'll
take the
segue
stage.
into that. So Planet Cool Stuff, as you guys know, is Rob's new show, where he basically talks about whatever he wants. So again, we started with video games, went into toys, and him and I have always talked about, well, there's, we love music, we love comic books, this and that. So Planet Cool Stuff is really just a big pile of everything, and it's really great. So for May 4th, those of you who were on my channel Saturday got to see a bunch of us YouTubers, our friend Jordan, who's a screenwriting teacher, Chad, Lawrence of Punk with Toys, Allison, Neil Temple, a bunch of us. We did a script read, also known as a table read for The Empire Strikes Back. And for those of you who were there and saw us act out the characters, thank you for hanging out. It was an absolute blast, and it's something that I wanted to do. I always want to do something special for Star Wars Day, and this was my unique way to once again play Star Wars without playing with Star Wars. So yeah, check it out.
How did it go? How did it go in your
fun.
mind?
It was so fun. It was almost 4 hours. Neil,
Wait,
who's
the movie isn't 4 hours, Jay. How did it take 4 hours to read the script?
well, as you know, with the script, there's setup, there's the exterior shots, interior shots. So Neil Temple read all the narration, all the exterior, interior shots, all the descriptions. So he had a lot of heavy lifting. So all that was read. He read pretty much the novel of Empire Strikes Back, and we just did the voice, our silly voices. But man, Chad, everyone killed it. Chad was Han, I was Luke, Jordan was Yoda and Vader, and Will, our buddy Will, was Lando. It was great. Hey, Destro, what's up, bro? It was a lot of fun.
Did Jordan do the voices?
Oh, dude, we all did the voices. Yeah, and Jordan was really sick too, but he still came through.
Yeah,
and he did it. So, Rob, this is something that we're gonna do once in a while as a special thing, but we got to get you in on one of these. It might not even be till next year. Next year, we're thinking Return of the Jedi, but you got to be involved in this, okay? So that gives you a year. You can surely pencil it in, okay?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Big hero, too busy.
Yeah.
Big diff.
We'll see how it goes. I like that you did the Transformers movie table read as well, not that long ago, too.
Yeah, it was me, Michael Mercy, and Stuart from Truck Yards. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Neil's also reminding you that he was Wedge as well. I'm glad we took a break in the middle.
Yeah, and you know what? We had a few lineup changes, unfortunately, because trying to get 8 to 10 adults is rough. And then Neil's like, I need 3PO. Neil's like, I could do 3PO too. And then the next day I looked at 3PO's lines, and 3PO has more lines than Luke does. I'm like, no, we'll hand that off to somebody else. And he had his hands full.
Well, we're getting a suggestion here. Maybe try and get Rob onto a gaming memory stream.
So TJC is a live streamer on YouTube, and he has a great original show where you can talk with him about a game. He'll pick the game, play it, and as he's playing it, you guys are talking about the different memories you have. I was on his channel. We did Resident Evil for PlayStation. So, yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have to have a memory for that kind of thing to work. And nowadays, maybe it would all flood back, Jay. Maybe it would all flood back. This is why I film everything, so that I can go back and watch it. Otherwise, it's gone.
I know, and you always come back to me. You're like, I'm like, was it stored? Went to you like, it's blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, I don't have the videotapes in front of me like you do.
It's the only time I get to trump anybody with my memory because I've been staring at it constantly. It's like the second this series is out, it's like delete, and everything will go out of my brain, like not even thinking about it. And they'll be like, okay, on to the next thing. So
that's why I'm always like texting you. I'm like, what was that really great store east side of Toronto? You're like, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so I can't remember.
Yeah. So I appreciate the pitch for Planet Cool Stuff as well. You nailed it. It's basically a series where I get to talk about wherever I want and basically craft segments for all our favorite, corners of the pop culture universe. So if you like toys, you like video games, you like comics, you like movies, you like music, you like candy culture, you like everything in between, Planet Cool Stuff is that kind of one hub. Because we have said this for years, Jay. Like, I don't want to do a show that's just this. I don't want to do a thing that's just this, because we love all of this stuff. So I said, I'm going to do a show that does all of that stuff. That was my goal. And I'm so blown away, man, by the response of season 1. It came out in Canada in November, because I thought, like you and I talked about, are gaming people going to want to watch toy segments? Are comic book people going to want to watch, gaming segments? And like, would it work?
Listen, it does. It does. It's a wonderful show, And I've often said on my channel, it's primarily games and toys, which I've always said are one and the same. All of this stuff we all love. So I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where someone's going to watch a show and now we're going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man. People are like, I'm going to turn this up. Nah, you're fine, man. It's all the stuff that we love.
Yeah, it was just nice to have that vindication, right? That like, hey,
Mhm.
what I thought and what I like, other people like, which we've known for a while, but to actually put it on the line and craft it and do it is great. Also, it was the first time that I took on a series order of 13 episodes to talk
Right.
about toys, gaming, and everything, which meant I had to come up with 52 segments. Now,
Yeah,
here's the
that's a
fun
lot.
part that put basically a gun to my head. I had 6 months to do this, and I signed to do it because everything with my other project, my documentary on Mr. Dressup, was winding down. I thought, okay, that's done. I can switch over to this stuff and get Planet Cool stuff in the can. And then Mr. Dressup started getting in festivals, and my time started depleting like that because I had to travel everywhere to promote it and get ready to do it, which meant I had even less time to do Planet Cool stuff. So what I think is really interesting is you'll find a ton of footage in Planet Cool stuff that we shot through all our various projects throughout the years. There's a lot of Nintendo Quest stuff that we shot that never made it into Nintendo Quest. Like Barry Hitchings takes us around the museum, and I carved that up into 2 or 3 segments for Planet Cool stuff where he talks about the impact of the Game Boy. And we use a lot of
Yeah.
archival footage to show kind of how the Game Boy came, or the power of Pokemon, or early gaming cabinets, or like rare obscure stuff. We do a game room tour with you. We do a toy room tour with you as well. Lots of toy room tours. I think there's 9 of those. We visit Brom at Heroes where we talk about comics, comic book gimmicks. Is one of my favorite segments where he just talks
Yeah.
about all the different marketing tricks that comic book companies have tried, especially some of the new ones like variant covers. He's like, nowadays, if Green Lantern's your thing, for example, there could be like 52 Green Lantern covers, and it's the same issue inside, but just a different cover on the outside. And that just takes it to a whole new
Yeah,
level.
they do variants now. So every Wednesday when they come out, there's variant covers that are already from the publisher marked up to like 14
Oh,
bucks or whatever. And it's like they're you know how the new releases they'll be all out, right? So the variants will be in the back. So you see all the collectors come in every Wednesday and go through to get the
yeah.
$14. I don't know, man. You and I learned with comic books way back the early image stuff. Like you, me, and our buddy Darren, we bought so many of those covers. They're worthless now because they were so mass produced. So
Any collector's edition that was like a first
yeah,
printing is like, second you put it,
yeah.
it makes it like
It's just you
less
want a
value.
regular issue number one of whatever it is. That's always going to be, unless it's like a super short printing of something. But even at that, yeah,
Yeah. So again, cool to have it out there. It came out in Canada, like I said, in November last year, but now it's out available globally. If you're in America, check it out on Tubi, check it out on Amazon Prime. It's also on YouTube's own free movies and TV channel where you can watch it with ads for free, which is really great.
good deal.
It's also going to land on a bunch of, the smaller platforms in time, but it's out there. Like I said, tons of gaming stuff, tons of toy stuff. You get to see myself and Jay as well. And it's cool just to be the guy handing off the segments and stuff. And we're trying to get season 2 underway in Greenlit as well. I've got 6 episodes about in the can. We're waiting for a green light. But I want to know, Jay, is there a topic that you would love to see covered in season 2? For example, like in season 1, I look at what is Batmania, why it happened, and what happened to it. How did it end, or did it end?
Well,
I talk about
that's a good
McDonald.
one.
I talk about McDonald's and the history of that, how McDonald's is part of pop culture. I talk
That's
about
a
the
good one.
battle of Mario games, with the most popular Mario games is like right by the stats. Is there some topic that you would love to see kind of scrutinized within a 6 to 8 minute time frame?
Oh, I would love to see you in whatever form take on the grunge movement in music, but I don't think
Okay.
8 minutes would really justify, especially with the way you're so in depth with things. That's the first thing come to mind. Is, hey, maybe that could be another project for you, man. I would love to see you do a documentary on that time. Oh, it would be so great. Uh, Weird, obscure '90s gaming. There you go. I can be a part of that one. We'll do like some 3DO stuff.
I'm writing all these down.
Um,
Obscure. 90s.
I do love the introduction to Image Comics when McFarlane made his own comic company, and just how that
The
changed the
impact of Image.
traditional Marvel and DC. Yeah, the impact of Image.
I'm taking all these ideas. Keep going. I'm
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
them all. Anybody in the chat, you got ideas? Let me know.
The
I
the
love that. Go ahead.
the last great gasp of the arcades, which would have been the fighting game era, which would have been 92 to 95, Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. That would be great. Um,
Okay. I got something here that we get to
Oh,
a
I
little
got
bit
one
in
more. I got
season
one more.
one.
Let me throw
Okay.
one more. I've
All right.
always been fascinated with the story of Andy Cab's pub, and the story of Nolan Bushnell from Atari getting the call that his Pong machine didn't work anymore. So Nolan went down there, opened up the coin box, and the thing just rained quarters. So the arcade machine stopped working because it had so much money in it. So Pong being introduced into the arcades. Oh, boom! Then you
Or
can
like
get
early
Nolan
arcade
and
days,
have me there when
early
you interview
arcade
him.
success. Cool.
There
And
you
I'm
go.
taking all these down. So Neil Temple, he chimed in here. I don't buy comics for the. I buy comics for the stories. I don't care about the condition or the covers. We touch on it a little bit in season one with one of the comic segments that we did with Brom and Heroes, but the rise of digital comics and the impact on the industry, or the lack thereof, I find super interesting, because I find that there's a ton of people that read digital comics, but they also still buy the physical ones because they want to leave the physical ones alone, pristine, and collect the ones that they really like. But they'll read
Yeah.
2 or 3 times more than they used to save money on what they want to consume, but just pick their favorites after the fact. And I think there's a story in there somewhere.
I think it's great. I don't know specifics in terms of metrics, but from what I've seen, getting in and out of comics over the years, I do the same thing where I read the Real American Hero run, maybe 2018, 2019, all digital. But I still collect the books too. But there's nothing like
Right.
having an old book. Like if you want to read Wolverine's first appearance in Hulk 180, now 181. If you want to read that, there's nothing like having it on your iPad. It's brightly lit, the colors are vibrant compared to using kid gloves going through the issue and it's faded, you know. So I certainly understand the need for digital. And from what I've seen, it's impacted maybe physical sales, but I spent a lot of time at Heroes, and I still see so many people buying actual physical books. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's equivalent to video games or not in terms of digital versus physical, but it would be interesting to look at.
Yeah. The digital revolution. Super interesting to kind of see what's been impacted the most and how and where it's going. Because and subscriptions as well, how that has risen, and each media and medium has different ebbs and flows with that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Silver Knight Kyle wants you as a guest on a show. It looks like he's one of our longtime supporters. He wants you to come on as an extra panelist to talk with the Spider-Man writer. Jay DeMattis. Maybe reach out to Jay, try to sort something
Yeah.
out,
Yeah,
figure
just
it
send
out.
me a
That's
message.
always
We can
cool.
talk for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Jay, we usually end these episodes with a little show and tell. Do you have something to showcase this time?
I do. You go first because I'm gonna do an audible. So you go first.
Oh, okay. So this week I thought I would show some. We talked about blockbuster games. I don't have any N64 stuff to showcase, but
Here, make there you
I
go.
yeah, I have these. These I got at the Game On Expo in Phoenix. As they're in mid-March. Thanks to the awesome John Lester, who was able to get us down to shoot Planet Cool stuff and a little bit of N64 Quest, some interviews, which was awesome. And I picked these up. These are Genesis Blockbuster video carts, and they're competition carts. There's obviously a blue one and a green one. And I guess these were at Blockbuster only, and I've never played them. You can see they're numbered NL 010102 103. So I don't know if there's a 101 or a 104, but these are out there. I'd be interested. I got to get probably my Retron hooked up so that I can take a look at them and see what's on them. But I got these for a friend. I'm going to just ship them off for his collection, and they'll be added to some more pristine and safe. But I thought they were really cool. And because, we're talking about the 90s and Blockbuster comes up with N64 Plus, that'd be cool to show you guys.
Our buddy Matt, oh, I can't highlight the comments. Matt Rubin on the bottom just says, I've never seen Genesis carts like that. Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I had
Very
never seen them either. I'd heard that there was Genesis competition cards because after NWC 1990, which apparently is now coming to the Switch like an NES remix, by the way, but with shorter kind of mini game challenges. But after that legendary competition,
Mhm.
we saw tons of competition carts and more competitions coming up. What do you
Okay,
got,
so
Jay?
originally I was gonna show off this, okay, but just to shelf up, I glanced at something that I haven't looked
The
at.
shelf up.
Shelf up, I looked at something that I haven't looked at in a long time. So I'm going to show you guys this in the spirit of Nintendo 64 Quest. I'm going to show you. I don't even know. Rob can maybe describe it better. I don't know if this was a promo item or what this was exactly. Um, but this was
Oh my
the
god.
original title of the film was called the NES Club, and Rob did like these promos. Look, directed by the Big Tiff right here. These promos look like NES cards. Here's me. I think I'm doing like my best Mario or whatever the hell I'm supposed to be, Jim Carrey or whatever we did. But there's the back. So this is an actual NES box with our first. See, we got the side with our first name for Nintendo Quest on it, and inside that was also our, I guess our membership into Twin Galaxies, where we got our own trading card that year from Walter Day. So that's pretty cool. That was inside. I forgot. I didn't think I lost it. I just couldn't remember where it was. So I guess that would be lost. But that was just tucked in
Yes.
the back.
So the story of that was it was just a Kickstarter giveaway, a replica NES box, and we actually sent out NES carts with NES stickers on them, just blank carts that were screwed together. And
Oh,
this is before we even tried to do an NES game, which is a whole other story. But
yeah.
basically, we did just a promo box because we called it the NES Club because we're all in the Nintendo Club, the NES Club, and then we changed it to Nintendo Quest because it just kind of described what was happening a little bit easier. But this was one of the Kickstarter reward items, so I guess now we've got to consider doing N64 Quest boxes and maybe carts as part of the Kickstarter campaign down the road. Down the road. So, and we only had a limited number of the Twin Galaxy cards given to us, and well, obviously had to pay for them and stuff. But I think we had like 100,
Oh,
and
and
so
that
people got
dude,
them.
that was it still is so great. I know there's a lot of controversy following Twin Galaxy now, and I don't talk about that stuff because it has nothing to do with you or me. But I still think, I'm still honored that that Walter thought our doc was good enough to induct us into Twin Galaxies and give us our own trading card. So I'll never forget that, man. That was a cool piece of history. I remember the day we got this card too, or the day you got the email
Yeah,
that,
we
that
showed
we're
it on
going to be
camera in
part of it.
Nintendo Quest. Yeah,
Yeah, so really awesome. So I just wanted to show that to you guys. There you go, as my show and tell.
it's wicked. Well, that'll do it for another show. Like again, we said earlier, we are trying to do this as a weekly thing, as a weekly live stream. It might be closer to 11 on Tuesdays. We're trying to sort that out. We'll let you know. We'll post in advance. We'll talk about it on our other media as we lead up to it, so you won't be left out in the cold. Thanks for obviously listening to us go back and forth on what's going on with Nintendo 64 Quest. Again, Nintendo64Quest.com. Get those raffle tickets in. Help Jay recoup the cash he's put up front. Help raise money for Alzheimer's and dementia, and own a piece of the Quest. Put it on your shelf.
Listen, that's the best part is that no matter what you get something gaming related, and I think that's super exciting. I just do. I mean, if I had an opportunity to own a piece of what's something maybe equivalent to what we do, like maybe a Kevin Smith jersey film, one of those, to be able to for $25 get a prop or something from there, dude, we would have been all over that back in the day,
Yeah.
all over that. So I think it's really fun, and I think you guys are really going to be surprised by a lot of the stuff we have in there, and the live streams we're going to do to show the winners is going to be a lot of fun as well. So yeah, Nintendo64Quest.com. And you guys know that you're on my streams all week. I'll be promoting the heck out of that. So if you forget, don't you worry, I got you covered.
And we always try to end these little rendezvous with our stolen yet catchy, infectionately warm catchphrase. For the love of toys, and for that matter, video games, movies, and all things pop culture, take care of yourself
And each other.
because the best time of day, my friend, is what?
Tuddly tiff time.
It's playtime. Take care, folks. Cheers.